Hi, this is Colin from Watch Off the Cuff. I'm gonna have a little thing here. It's called the lesson humility. So I have this watch here that's come in, and the customer here wants us to replace that crystal. Obviously, look at it; it's terrible. You can barely see through it in some lighting conditions. And I was seeing whether I could get a sapphire crystal for it. And I'd seen online somewhere, it was an old post where someone had this exact model number and had the dimensions for it. So I wanted to make sure I could order it and then have it ready for me to do this right away. So I wasn't waiting for the shipping for this a sapphire crystal from the wholesaler. Anyway, so but the watch did come in faster than expected. So I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't even ordered it yet. I'm going to go ahead and order it. But I didn't check it, and I took somebody's word for it. So here I got this sapphire crystal. The minute I opened this up, I'm just like, this doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near the correct size. So I was like, oh, great, here we go. So anyway, I wanted to do a before this. I'll do a how-to on how to put this together. I'm probably talking too much already. You just want to see me do it. So the bezel also is stuck. I don't know whether I can get some of the bezel parts for this. So in the process of cleaning, I'm going to try to release it. I'm hoping I can get the crystal out. It's pretty gnarled up, and the bezel is pretty chewed up too. So I'm hoping I can press out the crystal without having to remove the bezel. Then I have to hunt down bezel parts if, for example, the click spring is in pieces or broken, which with the condition that it's in and how heavily it's been used or loved, there's a good chance that that click spring is broken. So anyway, we're going to try to do that without and trying to deal with the bezel as a secondary issue. But I just wanted to show the before and then admit that I made a rookie mistake and didn't actually research and 100% confirm that the crystal size I got was correct. Anyway, I'm probably out of practice because quite often, like if it's a mineral crystal, I stock every size in most depths in 10 millimeter or sorry 0.1 millimeter increments from very small to very large anyway. So if I make a mistake, I just go to the bin and get the next size up. But anyway, lesson learned. I'm going to pop this out. Hopefully I'll get a chance to accurately measure it. So, I mean, if it comes out in one piece, and then I can order the correct crystal for the customer. Anyway, off to the next step. All right, we'll get this thing opened up on the Horological Maxi Press. Shameless plug, I'm now a distributor for Horological here in Canada, so I can also ship to the US. So if you're looking for something from Horological, or you have any questions about what you think you might need for your either home or professional setup, then please reach out to me. I'd be happy to try to help. This customer is actually a commercial fisherman, so I will probably end up doing a pressure test on this when it's all said and done. Which, oh, it's right there. Anyway, we'll go back to the bench for this, and we will get the movement out of this. See you in a second. All right, so we got this thing open, and we'll take a look at this. I'm gonna get a new tray. It's like totally unprepared. And I had the spring bars. There were some spring bars in here. This actually came on a NATO strap, so I just pulled them and I put them in a bag and put them in the job bag so that they were out of the way. So let's take a look at the crown release. Let's screw this, screw down crown. So the trick that I just pulled there is if you don't know where the crown release is, if you pull it in and out the crown, you can usually see the mover that the lever that the lever that moves. I said, what did I say, lever that levs or something? Anyway, so you'll be able to see. So anyway, in this case, I just gave it a quick look, and I just want to make sure I'm showing the correct spot. So the crown release is just right there in that little hole there. So when I pull this thing out to the first position there, it goes away, and I put it down to 0, and then all of a sudden it is in sight. It is very small, so I'm going to use a very fine poker here just to bring out the crown. There we go. And then we'll take a look and see what we've got for any kind of retainer. It's got a plastic retainer here So we'll just make sure we have that coming out the right way. Looks like there's a, we'll do a quick flip and just see whether it's just going to come out on its own. And it does. So a little bit of complexity already. I can see it's got a chapter ring that's installed. That's probably press fit between the case and the crystal, which again, it's not the end of the world. Just means that in terms of pressing the crystal out, it's a little harder because I have to use a smaller die to get through that. And then of course, when we reinstall this, we'll have to make sure that the chapter ring is properly installed. It doesn't actually look perfect right now because I can see this pip over here at the third. At the 3 o'clock position, or sorry, if I do it this way, yeah, 3 o'clock position. It isn't perfectly lined up with the crown, because I'm going to use that crown as the marker. So I'm just going to put it back in here a little bit and just see how well that lines up. But I can see that the dial ends up sitting in there. It might have a little bit of wiggle room in there. It's just something to keep in. Here I am out of the camera looking at it. Just something I'm just going to keep in mind before I press this thing out. Back at this thing. So I wanted to do a sapphire crystal for this, and it turns out that after measurement, again, before I pop it out of the case, I simply open up the micrometer here and open up, and we've got a 3mm crystal in here. I was not able to get a 3mm sapphire, so we're going back to replacing it with mineral crystal, which is fine. Ordered up those. I actually, up until now, have not stocked 3mm mineral crystals. But like I do with 1.5 to 2.5, I just went and bought just literally like every possible size in 10.1mm increments. So anyway, so let's press this crystal out, and we'll go from there. I'm just gonna have a bag. It's sometimes nice just to put a bag below the crystal in case it shatters. It just helps with the clean up of the pieces. So I guess I probably could have thought of that beforehand. I had a piece kicking around, but I had lost it. So I'm just going to cut a piece right here. And it's just from an old bag here. For something like this, I don't worry about being too precision. It's different if you're doing, trying to protect a dial. Like I have the fancy plastic overlays to protect dials when you remove the hands. But for something like this, it's like, you know what, it's going to be fine. So anyway, so the only thing I'm a little bit worried about, I got to be honest with you, is it is pretty gnarly here. And I don't know whether I'm going to have issues with it coming out and interfering with the bezel, which is also locked. We're going to get the core thing done here, which is make sure this crystal gets done. And if we have to remove the bezel in the process, we do it. So the only thing I think, maybe I've mentioned it before, is that if we remove the bezel with its age, we may or may not be able to get Seiko replacement parts for example, the click spring, which is fairly thin and has fingers that kind of curl up into a notched ring. So I'd rather not remove the bezel if I can. It may have to be done to do the crystal. We're going to play it by ear. So anyway, let's get this thing going here. And I think previously also I mentioned it does have a chapter ring that's inlaid. I hope that inside the case there's some pins that align this, but if not, we're just going to have to like place it, and it might be just press friction fit in there. I have dealt with chapter rings before where they lie in there freely, and then when the crystal comes down, it holds into place so it doesn't move. But anyway, I hope that in this case they have Seiko has left us enough room. So we're going to go gentle. I'd really like to be able to keep this in one piece if I can. And it looks like, yeah, we got it out real nice. And on top of that, if it's clear, the inner chapter ring has stayed in place, which is even better. So now we've got a little bit of cleanup we're going to do on the inside of here. And then look at how gungy the inside of that is. And after all that, I let it slip off the plastic, so I've got a little bit of cleanup to do. You can see how much is in there. Now, the other thing I was concerned about was, could we save the gasket? And it looks like the gasket is in pieces, so we'll be looking at putting in a new gasket in there, sometimes called an I-ring. Anyway, it's clean, but you can see here it appears to be completely disintegrated. So, all right, let me get set up for the next step. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then we're going to come back for next steps. Cheers. Okay, this might require a little bit of editing in terms of, length of video and all that. Should maybe keep that in the frame. So there's some bits in here that we're going to try to carefully get out, including some you can see here some fragments of glass. I don't know whether you can see that in the frame there, but it comes out. We're just going to try to get some of this gunk out. And actually, at this point, I complained about like, oh geez, I hope this ring doesn't come out. But now I kind of wish it did. It seems to be kind of press fit in there. And I don't know whether under the bezel there's another ring that allows to sit. But with all this gunk, I'd rather have it completely out of the way. So we're just going to clear the majority of this. And then I just wonder whether if I can get it cleared enough, whether or not, whether the bezel will move free again. So we're just digging all this stuff up. I'm terrible for keeping my hands in the way, so I'm going to try to show you, but I just want to keep it off that ring. So anyway, I'm going to dig that out. So I'm going to go around here and dig out all this stuff. I'm going to do it not on camera. Just the angle's going to be too weird. But anyway, that's what I'm going to try to do. We're going to clean it out as best we can. For final touches, I'll use a little bit of Horological to dig out whatever I can otherwise. And we'll try maybe a little bit of lubrication to see whether we get that to run free. And then we'll talk about getting a new eye-ring gasket in there and a new 3mm deep crystal. I haven't measured this yet. It makes sense I would do that, and then see what we've got in terms of distance here. I just want to make sure I grab the top part of it and not the gasket. Now it looks like we've got a straight up 33mm crystal there. So I'll have to make a note of that so I don't have to remeasure it. Okay, we've got the eye gasket here. If I could pick it up, that'd be great. So it has a flat end on one and a pointed on the other, and that's going to go in. Now with a 3mm thick crystal, you would typically use a higher. This one is a 0.9mm height eye gasket. But in this, with the rotating bezel, the actual seat that are in here in the case is actually only 1mm, and then the rest of it is the surface for the rotating bezel. So that works out perfect for our situation. And you can kind of see on the edge here where the original gasket that's all done now and deformed and corroded only sat down in this bottom portion. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go grab the new crystal. Just a tip, I'm going to go, and even though it's going to come out of like in a little envelope with no fingerprints, I'm going to wash it top to bottom right away, so that it is 100% like super clean before I put it in there. There's nothing worse than chasing a small fingerprint after the fact, so it's best to put it in as best as you possibly can, especially in this case because I might not be able to get back into the corners if I put a smudge on the inside once I put it in with this chapter ring. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get that next step rolling. Okay, so I was going to fit this with an eye gasket, which I have here. It's got a flat bottom and then a pointy top. So, the pointy top comes to the top. So the bottom flat portion sits in the seat. On this side here, I guess I'm doing it upside down on the seat here, and then the pointy part goes up towards where the crystal is going to come down into it. But I was looking at this a little more closely, and I don't think this had originally an eye gasket. I just grabbed a crystal right here, a new one. I can see here that what I thought was the disintegrated eye gasket, it looks like it's just all the accumulated dirt that got in here because the top of the crystal is this side, and the gunk that's accumulated here. So it isn't the crystal after all. It looks like that this was simply a pressure fit into the case. So in a case like this, this is owned by a commercial fisherman and wanted to save the watch. He likes it. So I'm going to pressure fit the new crystal of the exact same size into it. And we're going to, of course, test for waterproofness or water resistance, I should say, and we'll see how it goes. So a little bit of a change in plan. It's part of the process. You have a repair like this, and you try a couple things. You see some surprises. They're all made different, and you adjust accordingly. So I'm gonna wash this thing within an inch of its life before I put it in, and then we'll press fit this into the watch, and then proceed with a pressure test most likely. All right, so I'm putting fresh finger cots on both fingers. I've washed that crystal, and I've got a microfiber cloth here that I only use for the absolute like last final wipe with the crystal, which I'm going to save because we're going to have to fit this. I just want to make sure that's too big, so we're going to get the dies set up for this watch too. Then we'll do a final wipe on the crystal, and then we'll see about pressing it back into place. So let's go ahead and do that. And I just want something that's going to fit the case back nicely there. I'll go to 41. It's not quite. I want to have it as flat as I possibly can. What have I got? 38, 41. Classic. 41's too big. 38. It's perfectly on the flat, so we're good. So I'll put a 38 down below. And we're pressing in a 33 millimeter crystal, but I like to have it a little bit smaller because I want to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to end up, I've got 33 here and 30 here. I'm going to use the 30 side. I just want to be able to see it seat down. I just don't like doing it blind. And just a little bit of like 1.5 mils on each side is going to give me enough clearance to see what's going on. Now it shouldn't interfere, but I'm going to line up that chapter ring a little bit here. It's set in a track that freely moves, but we're just going to put it in place as close as we can. I've got my little fancy dancy cloth that I only use for this purpose, except I ended up putting the finger cots. This is what happens when I talk. At the same time, I got the finger cot on the wrong finger. It's not going to do much good. So I mentioned before, I've already washed this. And we're just going to use this microfiber. We're just going to give it a good go. And then what I'll do is I'll end up holding it up to the light as well and just checking the reflection to make sure the reflected light looks perfect on it, so that we don't have to press it. I mean, the great thing about crystals, you got to try to remember, you don't have to freak out quite when it comes to these crystals. If it doesn't work the first time, then you press it back in. You take it out, you press it back in. Or if it doesn't fit quite right, you redo it and press it back in. I was even thinking to myself with this one, with it not taking originally an eye gasket, I mean, if it ends up, if it ends up not holding a seal properly, we could look at putting an eye gasket and maybe going down a size a little bit on the crystal to make sure we can get the fit that we want. So there's options. There's always options. So I'm just going to take a look at this against the light. And it looks a little bit hazy here. I have done it where I've washed it twice. I thought I did a pretty good job. Let's take a look. Yeah, I'm gonna wash it again. There's still a haze on that. Just trying to see what side the haze is on. That's definitely on the outer side, but I just, again, it's just not worth it. I'm gonna go wash it again and come back. Okay, finger cots back on after a good wash. We'll give this a final wipe. I think we're in good shape now, and then we can position this crystal for insertion. Just gonna come down, take a look. So there's two sides. The upside's got a smooth polished top edge around the ending. The other side does not. So I'm just identifying the top. And just taking a look there. Blower. Again, it's just worth it. I can't tell you enough how worth it is to just do this and make sure this is perfect. There's nothing worse than getting it all done up, all cased, do a final inspection. Of course, just put my hand on it, put a final inspection on it, and then see a small smudge or whatever, and then you have to do it all again. So it's just worth it. I heard a guy, a watchmaker that worked in Switzerland, I thought was really good. I was talking about how long it takes the Swiss to do things, and he said, well, there's a saying, Colin, it takes time to make time. That was pretty good. Anyway, it's like dad joke territory. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get this. Let's take a final look here for. All right, I think we're in good shape here. So takes that, get that set up. Looking pretty good. There. So I just got that seated just a little bit. If anybody is curious about what cloth I use in this case, it is a Bergeron 7875 micro cloth. Anyway, when I'm done using that, I'm going to put that right back in the little baggie. And we will get this pressed in here. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I don't like how distant it is to the edge of the crystal. I'm going to flip it around. Just feel like it's not pressing close enough to the edges. And of course, I see a little speck. I want to make sure that it is not. Outside. So there we go. Get set up there. That looks really good. Sitting in there, really, really, really nice. Whew. Yeah, looks really good. And I don't know whether inside they've got it's black. They've got a really hard, you know, it has to be really hard. It felt like it could be metal, but when it goes in, I could feel the give. You can feel when it goes in whether it seats nicely or not, or whether you've pushed it in the wrong, you know, kind of in the wrong direction. Anyway, that looks really nice there, and we can go to casing this thing, or I should say sealing it up, and then we'll do a waterproof test on it. Okay, so we've got the case parts here. I should have got this out of the way before I started rolling here. Okay, so first things first, we're going to take the back gasket out. And we're going to clean that. Any old oils we're going to get off there. You can see that the gasket itself is in really, really nice shape. So we'll get it, and we'll get it re-lubricated. That's ready to go. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to clean the gasket surface as well. Do my best to keep things clear. Just make sure it seats properly. Once I'm sure that this is all good to go, I'll give the outside of the watch a really good clean. Probably someone's wondering why in pieces, why I didn't just throw it in the ultrasonic, for example. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, this has got a coated metal, which we could strip. The other thing is that the chapter ring is permanently installed in this case, and it can strip off the paint as well. So we don't want to put the whole thing in the ultrasonic. All right, let's take a look at, let's put that back. I'm gonna do one thing at a time here. Back for the gasket. There we go. And we're gonna clean this gasket surface. I'm just gonna hand tighten this for now. And then I just want to get any debris inside the case so it's nice to just have it sealed up. And we'll just clean around the this case tube here where this tube comes out, where the screw down crown meets it. We'll clean out the screw down crown, and we will re-lubricate that as well. So we'll take that, let's put that out of the way. So let's clean off this gunk here. watching me do this is probably boring, and of course my hand's in the way as usual. Yay! Maybe what we'll do is we'll move the camera. Let's do that. Let's do this. We'll go here. We'll go like this. Oh, hello. Okay, let's go down to here, and we'll go like that, and then maybe that's a little bit better for everyone. That's an edit if I ever saw it. Okay, there we go. So that's probably better. And I'm just going to resharpen this pegwood here. So I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to repoint it. Which you end up having to do. This is why they get shorter and shorter, and then at a certain point, if they don't fit in my hand nice enough, I just start a new one. So we get into these grooves here. Good, a bit of grab. Looks really good. Let's take a look at the crown next. Put this out of the way for now. Look at all this stuff. God, it's a constant battle of little bits of dirt and everything. All right, let's take a look here. The inside looks pretty good. Crown's pretty gunky here. We'll just get that off. One of the reasons why the bezel isn't moving, I think that was cement. Not bit. It wasn't just regular dirt. God, it's gonna be alcohol wipes galore when I'm done with this. Just want to get a little better light just to see the construction of this thing. So there's no O-ring, but there's a nylon insert on the crown tube. So what we'll do is I'll put a tiny little dab of grease on this shaft here before we put it in, which is right here. Okay, out of the way. Just gonna dab off any, it's too close to the top here. All right, and then we'll get this inserted into the crown, or sorry, into the watch case. There we are. And we'll do the case back, and then we're going to test it as is. We'll grab the spring bar to put it back in there so we can hang it. And I will close up the case and we will do the test. All right, into the contraption it goes here. Get this out. Oops, right. This goes. So the procedure will be on a machine like this is that we're going to pressurize it to 200 meters, and outside of the water, we will let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll relieve the pressure and we'll put the watch in there. And the theory is that we're going to pressurize it so that if there's a leak, we're going to get air that's going to make its way into the case, and when we plunge it into the water, the air will leak out if there's a leak of the place that it's leaking from. So we'll know, is it like leaking from around the gasket, or sorry, around the crystal, or is it coming from the crown? So anyways, we're going to do that, and we're going to pump it up. 200 meters, and we will let it now sit for 5 minutes and come back. All right, so we're going to relieve the pressure. I don't see any leaks. So there's a couple of bubbles right there. Sometimes, I should have checked, sometimes we can just get a little bit of trapped air there. Give it a little wiggle. I'm gonna bring it out, see if we can break the bubble. There we go. So to be 100% sure, we'll do it one more time, just to make sure that there just wasn't a little bubble hiding on when we put it in there. But usually we'll see some trickle out. I think we're probably in good shape, but we'll do it one more time just to be sure, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're ready to test this thing for, make sure we're all right. I'm just going to put it in the water first here. I just want to make sure there's a little bit of resistance to under pressure. I just want to make sure that there's no bubbles that I can see already. We're just going to turn around the case there, so we're looking good. Let that go. So we did see a little bit creep out the bezel, but not the front. I just wonder if we turn around the back here. It did not come out the crown. So I'm going to run the test again to be sure. Okay, so this has been a bit of an adventure. I put the thing in here first, and I was like, everything tested fine. It was 2 small bubbles by the crown. It wasn't streaming out, but I just wanted to make sure, so I thought I'd test it again, whatever. And then there was a couple of bubbles around the bezel, but the bezel is stuck shut. It has been. I've been trying to figure out, like, okay, you know, what am I going to do and how much damage is going to take it? Well, you know, I'm messing around. I'm testing it multiple times. I'm just trying to be sure. I don't use this very often. Anyway, so then all of a sudden air starts pouring out around, not from the front, but around the extra of the gasket. I pull it out and dirt starts to ooze out. So now the bezel's free. I gave it a clean again. So, you know, my intention is I'm gonna test it here one more time. I'll turn it towards the camera. I don't expect any issues. I've like tested it to death, and I don't have little bubbles streaming out. You know, I have that first time I had 2 little bubbles that stuck in the little crack of the crown. You know, which you know, again, if the watch is wet, sometimes like anything, you'll put something in water and a few little air bubbles will stick to it. Anyway, I'm gonna try it again. I think there's hopefully enough water stuck in the bezel mechanism now that we'll get air coming out. I don't think. But obviously there was some air trapped, and again, it was just like dirt and stuff in there around the edges, and then we finally got some I think, you know, the water, the air pressure's trying to release itself, and all of a sudden it worked some of the dirt out, so it's allowed me to turn the bezel, and I've washed it several times now to clean it out and flush it out, so now it turns very freely, so the customer will be very happy. Anyway, so this has sat long enough, So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it another go. I'm gonna turn it here in case you want to see things. We'll maybe turn it around a couple of different ways. We're gonna pop it in there though, and we're gonna let that go. I'm still seeing some bubbles around the bezel itself, but I don't think that's indicative of it. I don't see anything. We got a couple little tiny air bubbles there, but usually you see a little stream of air bubbles come out where there's a significant amount of air in there. So I think we're in good shape on this. Maybe someone else has got another perspective on this. I'll take it. I'll take criticism in the comments. Like anything. I did look at getting a dry tester. Obviously here I don't have the movement at all. I have had, some disasters with this unit. I wouldn't test it with a movement in there just in case. I have had the crystal blow out from the movement and then ricochet off the side and come back and damage things. But anyway, regardless, I think we're in good shape. I might just test it one more time just to make sure that everything is okay. But I really do think that if there was an issue, that I would end up seeing air bubbles come out of the front. It takes quite a little bit of moving around there to get it to kind of go through the bezel like that. And when the bezel was completely sealed, it didn't do it at all. And there is a clear path from the gasket of the crystal out the front, and there was nothing. So I think the more I say it, I think I'm fine. I'm gonna let it go. I think we're doing. I'm gonna test it one more time off camera before I case it. But I think we're in good shape, and I'm happy with the result. All right, thank you. All right, I'm doing this. All right, I'm doing this again for I don't know why I'm torturing myself, but anyway, I'm just gonna plunge it in there. I just want to shake it off and make sure I don't see anything. I see nothing coming out of the crown, and I do see some dirt poking out of the thing itself. So I think we're doing quite well there. All right, I'm satisfied, and it's time for us to case this thing. All right, we're gonna get this thing decased here. The case back first. Get the crown out, and I'm just gonna quickly go off camera here and get this done. All right, got this thing ready to go. We're gonna line up the blue marker over at the crown position, and we are going to get out the movement itself. We'll put it on the smaller cushion, maybe easier to case it. And we'll take a look here, get it in there, and we'll just, as close as we can, flip it over. Yep, it's looking good there. Still got it in view. All right, we'll make sure that's seated properly. And then we have this ring to put on as well. If you're doing this, you can tell which way it goes because, now that I've done it, I can't get it back out. There's a cutout right here, and you can see this raised part in the movement. So we're looking for that to be able to lay flush just like that. And I'm going to gently insert that into the movement. Still looking quite nice there. Whew, looks brand new. Set that up there. So we will take this. Always bugs me when the pip's not at 12. I'll take this back to the maxi press screw case opener there, And I just want to make sure, is it focused? Just my eyes, probably. I don't know. Anyway, there's the finished result. Looks great. And we'll get this back to the customer. One last thing in parting, thanks for watching the video. The usual, it does help when you subscribe. Also, I do represent Horotech products here in Canada now. So if you saw anything like the crystal press you saw today and were interested in purchasing one, you can check out my website, watchoffthecuff.com, for that and various other like watchmaking tools. That is it. Thank you.